What are you doing, Dustin?
I closed the window because those landscapers wouldn't shut up, but looks like they're finally packing up and being on their way.
Are they watching you and touching each other?
Two of them just high-fived each other. I guess they're like, good job on that lawn.
Nailed that lawn.
Nailed it. Bam.
Oh, good to see a bit of camaraderie happening in the outdoor industry.
Hey, it's sunny out. Good.
Not enough of
that. I'm just becoming more pale, but you know what they say, girls love guys with pasty white thighs. Am I right, Ian, Tom, Lisa?
No. I'm sure I've told you this, but I absolutely loved it when the Twilight films came out because I was like suddenly like skinny pale dude. So I'm like, yes, amazing. I was just running down the glitter shop and chucking some of that on my face.
I think it's hard to be in the UK and not have pasty skin.
That's hilarious. Twilight came out and you were like, it's going to be a good year. It's going to be a very good year.
Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross, and I'm the founder at designcuts.com. And this week I'm joined by my fellow Brit and hand lettering expert, Ian Barnard, American retro design expert, Dustin Lee, and the always talented South African illustrator, Lisa Glantz. In this week's episode, we talk all about how to get your clients more excited about your design work. Let's face it, clients aren't going to geek out about design the same way that we do. However, getting your clients more involved in your process and more engaged in your outcome can make your life as a designer a whole lot easier. Without further ado, let's get into the show. So today we are back and we're talking about how to make your clients excited, and not in a sort of rude way, but how to get them to care about design essentially, because a lot of clients, I found this, I'm sure you guys have too, as well as the listeners, you get all kind of pumped up about the design. Obviously it's what we're passionate about, it's what we love, and the client couldn't really give two F's about it, to be frank. Yep. So it can feel like a bit of an uphill battle, but how do you get these grumpy gusses to turn around and actually care about what we're doing, making things look all pretty in that on Photoshop?
I know I said this in the last episode, but money, man.
It all comes back to money.
You want to get a customer excited, tell them how much money they're going to make. Guaranteed.
Right, episode done. Answered.
That's the end of that.
I was just thinking about when you show the design to the client, you either get, for me, it was either one of two responses, mainly the second one, which would be, that's rubbish, let's start again, or I hate the colour red. But there was another response which really knocked me for six, because it was like, they go, yeah, it's fine, pay my invoice, wouldn't hear from them again. And I was like, you just didn't know what to do, because they were just like, it's fine. It's like,
they're like, thanks, bye.
Yeah, be nice.
I gotta tell you, Ian, because I had something similar happen. One of my first clients ever, when I first started freelancing, he wanted me to make like this logo of a lighthouse, and I made it for them. I was so proud of it. I met them at the Burgerville down the street to show it to them. This is back when I didn't know how to conduct business, and conducted my logo reveals at a burger shop down the street.
Yeah, did you arrange that meeting?
I did. So I brought, of course I, paid for their sodas. And
well, that's big of you.
I showed, that's about the money I had. But I showed them the design, and they looked at it kind of quietly for a minute of my lighthouse that I'd made, and then they said, I think I was just expecting something a little different. And I said, well, what were you expecting? And they said, I guess something more professional.
Oh,
cuts like a knife.
I can feel the heat coming off that one.
How did you respond to that?
So in all honesty, even to this day, I think it was good. I don't understand what their problem was with it. It was a good, solid lighthouse logo. But
Is this the same as the gorilla?
no, that gorilla was legitimately bad gorilla.
Okay.
I could hear it in your voice before the punchline came even. You were like, my lighthouse. Like, it just sounded so precious to you.
Oh,
It was
shame.
a good
Didn't
light.
like my lighthouse, Mum.
Can that be the visual for this episode?
What, just Dustin
Definitely.
crying next to a lighthouse.
Being a burger joint.
Yeah. I love everything about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've all been there. And so I guess that's the ugly side of them not caring is abject negativity and being shot down. But even on the plus side, like Ian said, when they're like, oh, it's fine, it just shows a complete apathy. And I don't think that's why we do it. Are you guys the same as me? Because I know my work is very tied to my ego. And I'm also the kind of person being all needy and insecure that I need reassurance. I'd get
Of
it at
course.
school, like when in art class, especially anything creative, it was this expression of myself. And I'd put my heart and soul into a drawing. And I'd really want the teacher to come over and like practically pat me on the head and be like, good job, buddy. You know, keep it up. That looks great.
I still want that.
Yeah, when you don't get that, it's horrible. I think it's impossible as a designer to be all aloof and be like, well, I'm happy with it, so I don't care what they think.
I think it's
Yeah.
funny when designers say, you can tell me whatever, like, I'm a professional, like, you won't hurt my feelings. Because as soon as they say that, like, I feel like I'm just thinking,
Right.
you've just proven you're a liar.
Yeah. You know there's problems.
Because every
Absolutely.
time someone said that to me, then, like, you find out after the fact that their feelings were very hurt.
Have you guys noticed? Do you get a face when you get that feedback from a client? You'll get like it's like a tell in poker, and hopefully he won't listen to this episode. But I've certainly had it with our creative director Matt because I really respect him as a designer. He's amazing, but we both had to critique each other's work. And even though we respect each other's feedback and it ends up paying off, whenever I've said like critical feedback to him, he'll practically get like this little like thing with his eye, right? It just
little
like
twitch.
moves slightly. And I can tell he's like absolutely fuming.
It's funny. It's funny how we actually we seek out that feedback, but when we really wanted to go our way only, it's quite bizarre. I mean, I ask Cliff all the time. To this day, I say, you know, what do you think of that? He'll go, oh, it's okay. That's like my worst. And I'll say to him, you mean like it's okay, or it's okay, or it's better than okay, or he goes, no, it's fine.
Agreed. I feel like the best
Yeah.
feedback is like, I mean, it's great, is almost not as good as what in the hell were you thinking? Like, at least when you get that, you know,
Yeah,
like you did something different.
Yeah,
Or it's nice.
Oh,
it's fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
My worst is it's fine. It's nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, it's
man.
terrible. And I know when I put out that silly like eye drawing the other day, it got quite a
Not
lot of
silly.
really nice comments. And like that really just fed like I needed to hear that. I was like, if I put it out and it was
Yeah.
crickets, or people were like, yeah, it's fine. And I think I showed a couple of people, like friends, and got more of the like, oh yeah, that's nice. And like that kind of apathy.
Yeah.
Because most people don't care about creative stuff that
No.
much.
No.
But yeah, that's a great analogy, Lisa. I think often partners and friends and other non-designers are in the same vein as clients.
Yeah.
So whether you're paying the bills or not, you don't want apathy from any third party.
No. It's so weird, isn't it?
Because that's kind of why they hired you in the first place, right? Like, because probably whatever they were doing had apathy, which is not good for sales. Like, I've never heard someone say, yeah, you know, saw that taco truck on the side of the road and I didn't really much think much of it. And I thought to myself, I should go buy some tacos.
Oh goodness.
So one proactive thing I can think about doing is bringing your own passion about your design work to any meetings with clients, because that can often be a catalyst. At least like if you might be really passionate in the process of building the design and creating it, but maybe you don't like dealing with clients, so when you get to the meeting you're a bit nervous, or your insecurities come out and you're being like self-deprecating about your work, or you're not really bigging it up. And whilst you don't want to be like bombastically arrogant about your work, certainly being passionate should set the tone for the meeting. And unless the client really, really clashes and doesn't like it and they're going to push back, often they will kind of follow. You're going to like Darren Brown them by setting the tone, and they fall into that. So if you're there and you're like, oh, I have to say, I loved working on this project. It was amazing. Like, I've come up with a bunch of stuff. I'm so excited to share. You like, what do you think? I love this one in particular. I think it could be amazing for your company. Like, if you're bringing that to them, they're going to get into that as well and be like, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, that looks really cool. It would almost make them feel uncomfortable if that's sat there shrugging, be like, yeah, it's all right. That would almost be like socially rude not to match your tone.
Absolutely. And especially if you're designing a logo, what will really help is if you give the background to how you got to that result. All your research and why you use green and not blue, and why you decided to put the lighthouse there and not there, and why you use that crummy little lighthouse drawing instead of
why you didn't go for something more professional, perhaps.
You're trying to tell me why this lighthouse meeting at the burger shop didn't work? I think you're probably nailing it.
I'm really tuning into this a lot with social media content where people seem to increasingly resonate with the story. And why not weave a story into client presentations?
Absolutely.
And you don't want to bore them. You don't want to drag it out. And they're like, seriously, just show me what you came up with. But I know some of the most apathetic, it's fine reactions have come when I've just walked up to the client and literally been like, there it is, and shown the end design with no build up. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's good.
That's okay.
Right? And of course they're going to react that way when you just like open up your laptop and you're like, there it is. But you can weave a bit of a story, like you say, Lisa, where it's like, oh, I had a lot of fun with this. I was going to go down this tangent, but I thought this was much more you, and then really had a brainwave at this stage. And in the end, it ended up here. What do you think? Like, that's very different where you kind of just weave that story.
And people like process as well, don't they?
Yeah.
Seeing the process of how you came up with the ideas is really a good way to help them get on board.
Perhaps respect the client enough to know they will actually enjoy the process. I think certainly I have in the past, and I think a lot of designers kind of presume they're not going to care about all that. So I might as well just show them the end design because that's the only thing they're going to care about.
It also gives them an idea of what they're paying you for. I always felt like I was obliged to tell them my process because I know they're paying me X for this little design, and I felt like I needed to actually, explain how I got to that.
Justify the expense.
Yeah, almost.
Do you guys not think it's one of the worst feelings in the world, though, that moment before you finally reveal it? Because even if you're putting on a bit of song and dance and weaving the story and building up to it, that moment before you open the file where they could either crush your dreams or elate you, it's really horrible, no matter how you dress it up.
Yeah.
Can I say that I never really did any presentations like that? Mine have always been over email. And so it's harder to...
Well, then the moment is stretched out because instead of it being 10 seconds of, oh, I'm about to show them, it's like a day or a week of, oh, I keep refreshing my email and not hearing back.
That's way worse.
Well, I was kind of thinking the same thing because I do think presentation is a lot, especially because I just got back from talking at Creative South, and my friend Scotty Russell had told me to practice a ton, practice over and over, practice in front of your wife, and practicing paid off. And so I think when you do a presentation, even for a logo, presenting a logo or whatever your work is for a client, if you really practice that presentation, how am I going to open it in an interesting way? How am I going to present it? I mean, practicing that until you don't have to think about it is going to eliminate anxiety and make a better impression. But at the same time, like Ian was saying, I've gotten work back from some designers, and it's been like they were just like, here's what I did, maybe a sentence or two about it, and I opened it and I was just floored, and I just like wanted to like do a happy dance around the room because it was just so freaking great.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to put those two together because it's worked both ways for me.
Well, you're a designer though, so you're going to be more easily floored by the design standing alone.
Good point.
Although there is something kind of cool about being like, here it is. Nailed it.
Yeah. Well, and the guy that I'm thinking of that did that, he did nail it. He was so hardcore. I mean, he just nailed it. And I was just like, dude. Yeah. Like he read I think it was because I felt like he listened and understood so well that when he dropped it off, he'd already done all the buildup by just showing that he understood so well that when he delivered it, he was like, just like I told you, like I delivered exactly what you expected, except better.
So anyone listening, just start your email, be like, you can thank me later. And then just with an
just do it.
attachment.
You're welcome.
The arrogant designer's show.
You just need to include an animated GIF in it where you're just like going, yeah.
Mic drop, mouse drop.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Just hype it up, something unreal.
You know, it would be funny as if in the email, like when you send it, there was just like a little animation or GIF of like you running around the office doing a high five to all the other people.
And another one with you crying in a corner, and you could say to the client, you choose which one happens based on your feedback to this proposal, and they like click one as their response.
Totally.
Emotional blackmail.
It's funny because we talk about these two, you know, oh, here you could present it to them or you could send an email, but you could do it any way you want, right? I don't like, there's so many different ways that you could present things to people.
Definitely.
I don't know what they all are, but
I mean, what you could do, you could, if they're working across the other side of the world from you, you could do a video. And I'm becoming increasingly obsessed with this, with storytelling and video and social content. I'm just getting really into it at the minute. So if I had a client in South Africa, let's say, right now, if I was freelance designing, I would communicate throughout the project. But for the final proposal, I'd put together like a 2 to 5 minute video showing the story of how the project has got to this endpoint in a really creative way that kind of drew them in and led to the final like ta-da, like reveal moment. But you could film it in a super creative way. It's like, so first of all, I did this and I did all these sketches and you're like holding up bits of paper and that led me down this path. And then I thought this would really be great for your business, and almost like just pitch it to them in video format.
That's cool.
I like
that.
Can I tell? I read a story about a proposal that, an agency that came up with a design concept for it was these like quite expensive puddings called goo. You can get them in the UK, but the guy who invented them came up with this idea, and
sorry, just go ahead. Just want to throw that in there.
And he gave it to his friends' family. They absolutely loved it, and he started selling it, and it was doing really well. And he thought, okay, I need to brand this and get this out there, get it to the shops and stuff like that. So he took it to a design agency. And, you know, they had it for a couple of weeks. And they phoned him up and said, I think you better come in. And he was like thinking that they're going to present the proposal. And he came in and they said, got a bit of a problem because someone else has beat you to market. And they showed, they said, and look at what they've done with the design. It's all rich. It's really well designed and stuff like that. And he goes, yeah, and the guy whose presentation, you know, whose projects he was, he goes, they've done an amazing job. I don't know what I can do. It's awesome design, you know, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of it, they go, well, actually, it is your design and there isn't any other product. And so they he'd already, got on board with it from seeing it from a different angle. Yeah. And it's just like...
That is one way to bribe your clients.
Yeah.
Like, because you can't go back now.
Well, it's thinking outside the box.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Just
I like that stuff.
You could like a practical way would be like, say you were doing a poster, put a poster where it might be found, and say, actually, let's get out the building. I've already been down there and put up get it printed off. A bit illegal, just randomly placing a poster on a wall. But you could do that if it's just before the presentation. Say, actually, look, I've made it. It's not here. Let's go outside. Let's have a look at in situ, rather than being like on a blank bit of foam board or something like that.
Yeah, that's so brilliant
because so cool.
It gets them out of that frame that they're in. Hey, that reminded me. I've got to tell you guys this quick story. It's kind of related. We can edit it out if it's not related enough, but it so fits with this thing of getting people out of the frame that when you were saying that made me think of it. There is this video I saw, and this guy at the coffee shop telling the story about it, and he's like, I'm at this coffee shop at the airport. And and I bought like some donuts, and it was like 5 donuts. Like, if you buy 5, you get it for the special price. He's like, so I bought 5 of these donuts. He's like, so I'm sitting at the table, and another guy who looks kind of like homeless and unkempt sits down at the table, and he's like, I'm working on my computer, and then like he reaches into the bag and grabs a donut and starts to eat it, and he's like, what's going on with this? And he's like, well, if he's willing to reach in the bag, maybe he needs it more than I do. But he's like, still, like, I kind of like looked at him a little bit and like grabbed one of them and like ate them. He's like, I'm eating it. And then this guy reaches into the bag again and takes another one. And he's like, I looked at the guy like, what? Like, like, how dare you, and he's like, so I like reached in and grabbed one, like with full ownership and like, like kind of just stuffed it in my mouth. Right. Like it's mine. And he's like, so there's one donut left. And then like they say that someone's boarding, like it's boarding for a plane, and this unkempt guy gets up, and as he's leaving the table, he reaches into the bag and he grabs the last donut, and he looks the guy in the eyes, and then he like takes a bite of the donut and walks off with the donut. He's like, I couldn't believe this guy, the nerve on this dude. He's like, and then as I was getting ready to leave, I looked into the chair of my seat and realized that my donuts were in the chair next to me.
Oh my Oh my god. You see? That's
I didn't expect that.
Chronic. No, me neither.
I've heard that story before.
It's
like,
I can't believe I've heard one of
Dustin's.
Dustin's.
It wasn't you, was it?
I wish.
Wow.
So on the note of putting posters up and that kind of thing, I can't believe I haven't mentioned this, but we specifically sell mock-up templates for this reason. And they might not be like a crazy, wacky thing to do with your clients, but they certainly make it more compelling. And the entire reason is clients lack imagination. So when you show them just this flat design, often it doesn't do it for them. But when you can go and put it on the side of a van or a laptop screen or the side of a building or whatever it might be, and you can do that in 10 seconds with a mock-up template rather than having to go and get it printed out and get a professional photographer and you spend thousands, which you can't afford to do. That's like a super easy win, and we use it all the time. Like whether it's to show it off in your portfolio or to present a client with a logo or a bit of brand work for the first time, mock-up templates are awesome for getting them to actually care.
Yeah, they are.
And what's the website you can get these from?
Well, funny you should mention that, Ian, because I hear designcuts.com has some high quality ones with fantastic licensing and the ability to get them for 50% off. Oh, sorry, I forgot we're recording. I was just so caught up.
This episode is sponsored by...
I wasn't going to go there. I actually wasn't going to go there. It just popped in my head.
It's a good idea.
No, it's a brilliant idea because, it saves you so much time. It's also a good way, I think we've mentioned this before, to test your design. Because it can give you an idea of whether you are actually on the right path or not.
It is like, because you suddenly see it, like say on the side of a van or something, you're like, actually that looks kind of weird. Or
yes,
I keep bringing up memes lately and like misremembering them, so I'm like the worst anecdotalist in the world. But there was one the other day, and it was on a van door, but when the door opened, it spelt a really rude word, and the designer hadn't thought about it, because it was like a sliding door, so it concealed some of the letters. So it was like, ended up giving a particularly rude 4-letter word, I think it was.
Oops.
With the company logo obscured. And so all that kind of stuff can help for mocking it up.
I don't know if this is too much work to do for someone, but I feel like this eliminates almost all of the stress of presenting your work to a client. If you can show it to real customers without them realizing like you're the designer, like if you could like, I'm trying to think of how you would do this.
And record their feedback.
Yeah, like for instance, like let's say you're rebranding a coffee shop and like you put up flyers or coupons or something worth talking about, and then like recorded reactions without them knowing, so it wasn't because you were putting people on the spot. If you had social proof from the real customers, the real target market, that this design is getting people excited about what you do, even if they look at it and they're like, I don't like it, you can be like, well, you don't, I mean, in a nice way, you don't like it, but your customers do, and that's what matters, right? Like, at least that way you walk away not feeling totally destroyed, even if they don't like it, because hey, proof's there.
Yeah,
Customers like it.
I like that. And again, it's storytelling. It's putting together creative, fun content. And you could just run out on the street and hold up to and be like, which one do you like better? Completely unbiased. And they would be able to tell from how it was made that it's not like your family or your best friend because you're not that good of an actor. They tell it was genuine. And it makes me think of this TV show we have here called, I don't know if it's still running, but Snog, Marry, Avoid. Have you seen that, Ian? It's like real trash TV, but essentially they get these people who like wear too much makeup and stuff, and then they clean them up and make them look nicer. And the guy at the street at the start, they're like, "Would you snog, marry, or avoid this person?" And then they do it at the end and see how it compares. And normally at the start, they're like, "I'd avoid them because they're a hideous pig or something," and like really harsh. And at the end, they're like, "Yeah, I'd take her home to meet me mum." And it's like,
Totally.
yeah.
I mean,
Why do you sound like a Cockney when you do meet me mom?
I mean, what if you recorded coming up to people and you made fake gift cards, one with like, say, the branding you did and one with the old branding, and said, "Hey, there's like 2 new coffee shops, for instance, since we're talking about coffee shops. I can only give 1 gift card away, but like which one of these places would you prefer to go to?" I mean, people would see that and be like, "Oh my gosh, 3 times as many people took the rebranded card as this one." It doesn't. That's just one idea, but like you could riff on that.
I like the idea. We're starting this hypothetical design agency. If I did that, I would literally like take the piss out of myself and I'd pretend to be Morpheus in the Matrix and be like, "Do you want the blue one or the red one?" And like wear some shades and film it in that way. And then like go out in those shades on the street and start handing it to people and see which one they went with.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
See, like what gets me with design is there's no need to make it boring. And I know a lot of this stuff, again, we always kind of get back into marketing, and that's often the way to bring design to life in many senses. And I don't want to detract from like, I don't want it to be all about the sizzle, but the steak's not there. Like, obviously, the design itself has to inspire their passion. It has to be good enough, but there's no reason you can't do stuff around that to make it more real and palpable and exciting for the client. And as I say, it should just never be boring. Like, even just chatting with you guys, we're not even like handling a real serious project here, but if we were, you bet believe we could sit in a room for a few hours and come up with 100 ideas for how to make it compelling and exciting for the client. You should never just settle and be like, "Oh, here's my design work. What do you think?" Like that's
I think it's when you need other people, because I find I fall within the trap of just doing maybe slightly boring ways of doing things. But when I'm just speaking to one other person, they might go, "Oh, that's good, but have you considered this?" And they can see it from a different angle. So even just trying to find people to like we meet up and other people to chat to just to riff ideas, and it should it needs to be someone that's maybe in your area or of creative area, so they've got the idea of what could be done, stuff like that.
Or we said again and again, start a mastermind. That's how this started, and it's not going to be your direct competitor if it's a designer doing the same thing as you halfway around the world. Or that might be with the internet, but you know what I'm saying. You're not going to be like nicking each other's clients just because you start doing the same ideas around this stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
There's enough work to go around.
Yeah, exactly.
There is. You could also involve, but it depends on the client and it depends on the project. You could involve your client through the process. I've done that a few times with clients that I can trust. If
I was going to say, just to push back on that, does that not become painful, like them looking over your shoulder?
Well, that's why I say you have to be really careful about that, because when you start developing a relationship with a particular client and you get to know their personality and how difficult or easy it would be to do that, then for this particular client that I'm thinking of, it actually helped me to include it in the process, because by the end of the whole story, whatever we were doing together, she'd be so sold on the concept because she'd feel like she had a hand on it, and and it was basically her concept, or whatever she would think in her mind. So it helped, but obviously you do have to be careful who you choose to involve. But sometimes that can really get not only you excited and her excited, or whoever, about the project, but it actually helps the process, because then you get a better idea of what the client really, really wants,
and you get that other person to bounce off. They don't have to be a designer, do they?
No, and that was the thing. I mean, I would go to her with, say, 2 concepts, and I say, I'm thinking of going this route, and this is probably what's going to happen, or should we go that route? And instead of wasting all my time on the one particular route that I chose, it could have been the wrong way that she wanted to go. And often than not, she would be like, oh, no, that's fine. I think let's go that way. Or sometimes she'd say, no, I think this is a better route. So, it does depend on the client. But that is one way to get them involved and excited.
Yeah, that's smart. I like it.
An idea I always love that applies to this is look outside your industry. How do they in other industries present ideas to people that you like? How does an interior designer present an interior design idea? How does a real estate agent present the perfect house they think? Look outside your industry for what you like.
Think about Steve Jobs. Did he walk out on a stage at like an Apple Summit and be like, got a new iPad, guys? It was like a seminal event. And no one else was doing that.
Right.
Like these whole massive product launches, which was like a cinema screening almost.
And he was famous for his by the ways, by the way. And then he would tell you he just dropped something insane on you. I mean, what a great way to end a presentation, Like it's almost like he built it from the by the way backwards.
Yeah.
I like that because I'm always accused of that by the team here. It's become my inadvertent catchphrase because I'm always like, oh, by the way, like, can you look at that or whatever? And now whenever I say it, 4 people turn around and go, by the way, to like make fun of me. If you're listening, SJ, it's you.
That's on evil or dumb?
A little from column A, a little from column B. Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. You're baring your teeth. That is kind of scary.
Boys.
By the way, little aside for anyone listening to this who can't see Dustin's pearly whites as he did his evil laugh, do remember we are on YouTube as well. If you search for The Honest Designers Show, every episode live streams, so you can see our silly faces chatting every week.
Yes.
Apart from Lisa, she's got a lovely face.
And then you can decide in the comments who's the best looking of us. Just put the name in and press submit.
No pressure.
You definitely get coolest hat today. Is that your Draplin hat?
It is my Draplin hat. I started out wearing a couch hat and I moved it over to the Draplin hat.
Nice.
Because it says Oregon, and that's where I'm kind of,
You kind of from.
I can toss a rock across the river into Oregon from where I'm at, so good enough.
There's quite a big design contingent in Oregon, isn't it?
Yeah, there really is. I mean, just in Portland. The rest of Oregon is just like bears. But Oregon, Portland, we got a lot of very densely packed great designers.
Isn't it like designers, entrepreneurs, and hipsters?
Yes.
And bears as well.
Often crossover between the 3.
Yes, exactly. Big nice. Crossover.
Sounds like a cool place.
You guys would fit right in.
A lot of coffee being drunk. Teach us your ways. Okay, so on a closing note then, quick fire round, as we sometimes do. How are we going to make our clients more excited for all the listeners at home? And feel free to recap. We're like bullet pointing. So from my perspective, I think weave a bit of a story for them, bring your passion to the table, and they should follow that. Get them involved in the process. I'm kind of nicking your guys' points here. I'm just trying to remember them all.
Giving all the
what else did we cover?
Thinking differently about presentation.
Yeah, present in a creative, fun way. Don't be lame or boring.
I'd say pull from great showmen. Like sometimes, like no joke, I like look up stuff about like P.T. Barnum. How did P.T. Barnum get people to go to the circus or go to whatever thing he had going? We don't have time to get into that, but like look at how great showmen present things. That's fascinating. Go look up P.T. Barnum and the stories of how he promoted it. There's so many ideas for how to make things fun.
Oh well, yeah, I'll check it out. On a way more boring note, mock-up templates. Always good.
Yeah.
Or the circus. Cool. Well, hopefully you guys and girls at home got some value from that one. I would say keep the reviews coming. as well. Cool. Well, yeah, thanks everyone for stopping by this week. Glad you could join us, whatever you're doing, whether you're... We've had all kinds actually in the reviews. People listen to us like mowing their lawn or drinking coffee or in the gym.
Oh,
like,
that's cool.
not in the gym, that's dangerous. You don't want to laugh at Dustin's gags when you're on the treadmill going 30 miles an hour. But anyway, thanks for stopping by. As always, we appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you later.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. We hope that it gave you plenty of actionable ideas to engage your clients more in your design work. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com or find us over on iTunes by searching for The Honest Designers Show. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean so much to us if you took just a moment to go over to iTunes, leave us a quick review with your feedback. We read every single one, and honestly, it means the world to us. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next week right here on The Honest Designers Show.